Christopher Bell has just tied a NASCAR record that has stood for 45 years, and it is not one that anybody wants their name attached to. With his runner-up finish at Iowa last weekend, Bell now has 7 second-place finishes in a single season without a single victory, matching a mark set by Harry Gant all the way back in 1981. 45 years, and nobody had matched it until now. And tonight, at Richmond Raceway, he gets a genuine chance to make sure that record ends in a tie rather than becoming his outright. Because if there is one track on this schedule where the numbers say Christopher Bell should finally break through, it's this one. In 10 career Cup starts at Richmond, he has finished 6th or better 7 times. That is an extraordinary hit rate at a place that punishes almost everybody. But then Friday happened. His number 20 team failed pre-race technical inspection twice, and NASCAR responded with penalties that will directly affect how his race unfolds tonight. So today, let's break down the record he's just tied, why Richmond of all places should be the answer, exactly what those penalties cost him, and the honest question at the center of all this, is 7 runner-ups a story of failure, or is it actually a story about speed nobody's converting? Stay with me. Welcome back to Freedom Line News, the channel where we don't just chase the drama, we break down what really happened. If you're new, hit subscribe. This community is growing every week. Let's get into it. Let's establish exactly what this record is, because the specificity of it matters. It's not most second-place finishes ever. It's most second-place finishes in a single season by a driver who did not win a race that year. And that combination is what makes it so brutal. You have to be fast enough, week after week, to keep putting yourself on the front row at the finish, and unlucky enough, or a fraction short enough, to never actually get to victory lane. Harry Gant did it in 1981. Nobody matched it for 45 years. And now Christopher Bell has, in 2026. And the way he arrived at it has been relentless. 4 of those 7 runner-up finishes have come in the last 5 races alone. That stretch is so unusual that you have to go back to Kyle Larson across 2016 and 2017 to find another driver managing 4 second places inside a 5-race window. At Indianapolis, he chased Corey Heim to the line and never got the mistake he needed. At Iowa last Sunday, he led 108 laps and won the second stage. And then lost the race on the final green flag pit cycle when Ty Gibbs took 2 tires and Bell's team took 4. Track position 1. His own crew chief, Adam Stevens, publicly framed it as taking the roughly 53% call over the 47% one and simply losing anyway. And the drought behind all of it now stretches 30 races, dating back to the Bristol night race last season. Bell's own summary at Iowa said it best. He called it a bad second-place finish. Not a good one, a bad one. So why does tonight matter so much more than a normal Saturday? Because Richmond is, statistically, about the best answer to this problem that the remaining schedule offers him. 10 career Cup starts here, 7 finishes of 6th or better. On a 3/4-mile short track where passing is difficult, tempers run high, and a single mistake can drop you a lap down, that kind of consistency is genuinely rare. This is a place Bell has figured out, and he qualified 8th for tonight's Cookout 400, which puts him comfortably inside the top 10 to start. On a night where Ryan Blaney took the pole, his 2nd consecutive pole, his 4th of the season, and the 4th time in the last 5 races, he'll lead the field to green. There's also real urgency attached to it now. Bell sits 6th in the championship standings after that Iowa runner-up vaulted him 4 positions. And there are only 3 races remaining before the 16-driver Chase field is locked in. Under this year's format, where the field is set by points position rather than wins alone, his consistency has genuinely banked him into the postseason. He isn't sweating whether he makes it. But seeding matters once the resets begin. And more than that, a driver who enters the chase without a win all year carries a very different kind of pressure than one who's already proven he can close. And then came the complication. On Friday at Richmond, the number 20 Joe Gibbs Racing Toyota failed pre-race technical inspection, and then failed it a second time. NASCAR's response was immediate and specific. Bell's car chief, Chris Sherwood, was ejected for the remainder of the race weekend, and the team forfeits pit stall selection. They weren't alone either. The number 51 Richmond Racing entry got the identical treatment, with their car chief also sent home for the weekend. Now, I want to be measured about this, because it would be easy to overstate it. This is not a points penalty. It's not a suspension carrying into the chase. Bell's championship position is untouched, and the car still qualified 8th. So whatever the inspection issue was, it clearly didn't cost the car its speed. But losing pit stall selection at Richmond specifically is a genuine competitive hit, and here's why. This is a 3/4-mile track. Pit road is short and tight, and the stalls are packed close together. Where your box sits determines how cleanly you can get in and out, whether you risk getting boxed in behind a slow car leaving its stall, and how much time you lose on entry and exit. At a track where Iowa just demonstrated that a single pit cycle can decide a race, being handed a worse stall instead of choosing a good one is exactly the kind of small disadvantage that turns a win into another second place. And losing your car chief for the weekend removes a key voice from the setup conversation on a night when track conditions change significantly under the lights. So here's the honest question underneath all of this, and I think there are two legitimate ways to read it. The first reading is that this is a failure, and Bell himself clearly sees it that way. 7 second places put nothing in the trophy case. 30 races without a win is a long time for a driver of his caliber. And once you get to elimination racing in the chase, being reliably the second fastest car is precisely how you go home early. He isn't collecting moral victories, and he isn't pretending to. But the second reading is just as defensible, and it's the one almost nobody is making. To tie a 45-year-old record for runner-up finishes, you have to be at the front constantly. That is not the profile of a driver having a bad season. That's the profile of the most consistently fast competitor in the sport across a months-long stretch. And there's a piece of context that makes it genuinely remarkable. Bell has been doing this while driving with a fractured left wrist, picked up in a 63G impact at Michigan back in June, the hardest crash recorded in the next-gen era. He returned the very next weekend with cockpit controls relocated, effectively driving one-handed at first, and to be clear and fair, the wrist is not the reason for the second places. Iowa was lost on a strategy call his own crew chief owned. Indianapolis was lost because the driver in front didn't make a mistake. So the injury isn't an excuse. It's context that changes how you weigh the whole run. 7 runner-ups from a healthy driver is a frustrating season. 7 from a driver who spent part of it steering one-handed is something closer to extraordinary. So everything now points at 400 laps under the lights in Virginia. Bell starts 8th with a car fast enough to qualify there, at a track where he's finished 6th or better in 7 of 10 tries, but without his car chief, and from a pit stall somebody else chose for him. If he wins tonight, the record stays a tie, the 30-race drought ends, and he walks into the chase as a genuine title threat rather than the fastest man without a trophy. If he finishes second again, he owns a 45-year-old record outright, and it becomes the defining statistic of his season no matter what happens afterward. There is no other driver in the field for whom one race carries that specific kind of weight. And the thing worth watching most closely isn't his speed. It's pit road. Because the last 2 times Christopher Bell had a race in his hands, the pit cycle is exactly where it slipped away. And tonight, NASCAR has already taken one of his advantages there before the green flag has even flown. So now I want to hear from you. Does Christopher Bell finally break through tonight at Richmond and end the drought? Or does he pick up runner-up number 8 and own that record outright? And is 7 second places in a season the sign of a driver failing to close, or genuinely the fastest guy in the sport who just hasn't caught a break? Drop it in the comments, hit like, and subscribe to Freedom Line News, where we cover every NASCAR story with the detail it actually deserves. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.